A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a troubling development, the Trump administration's cuts to the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, have resulted in the freezing of hundreds of millions of dollars in contractual payments to aid organizations working in Gaza. This financial freeze has left these organizations in a precarious position, forcing them to pay out of pocket in an effort to maintain a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. According to officials from USAID, the cutbacks pose a significant threat to the limited progress that aid workers have made in alleviating the humanitarian crisis in Gaza amid the ongoing ceasefire. The ceasefire itself, which was brokered with the assistance of the Trump administration, is now at risk as aid groups struggle to fulfill their commitments without the promised funding. Initially, USAID was set to provide substantial support for humanitarian efforts in Gaza following the ceasefire agreement, with over $383 million approved for aid on January 31st. However, since that time, no confirmed payments have been made to any partners in the region, leaving aid organizations in a dire financial situation. Several officials, who have faced multiple rounds of furloughs, have shared their concerns on the condition of anonymity due to fears of retribution. Two senior officials from prominent aid organizations have confirmed that they have not received any of the promised funds, despite having already spent millions on essential supplies and services. As a result, many organizations are now unable to sustain their operations indefinitely, leading to layoffs and scaling back of critical services. Internal information from USAID indicates that some organizations have already reported staff reductions and operational cutbacks, which could jeopardize the fragile ceasefire. Under the terms of the ceasefire, Hamas is expected to release hostages held in Gaza in exchange for Israel releasing Palestinian prisoners and increasing humanitarian assistance. However, Jeremy Kinnindick, president of Refugees International and a former USAID official, emphasized that the U.S. established specific commitments for aid delivery under the ceasefire, and those commitments cannot be met as long as the funding freeze remains in effect. USAID, which has been a primary target of the Trump administration's efforts to downsize the federal government, has seen its funding drastically reduced. Prior to Trump's presidency, USAID had approximately $446 million allocated for partner organizations in Gaza for the year 2025. Following the freeze on global foreign assistance, the agency's Gaza team was required to submit a waiver to ensure that funds for Gaza aid could continue to flow. On January 31st, they received approval for over $383 million, but subsequent cuts have limited the available funds even further. Contracts were signed with 8 partner organizations, including several prominent non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and UN agencies, to facilitate the flow of supplies and services into Gaza. However, reports have surfaced that many organizations are not receiving the payments they were promised, despite having already incurred significant expenses in anticipation of reimbursement. This situation has led some organizations to reduce their spending and scale back their programs. The International Medical Corps, a notable global nonprofit organization, was awarded $12 million to continue operations at 2 hospitals in Gaza, including the largest field hospital in the region. However, due to the funding freeze, the organization has been forced to lay off approximately 700 staff members and can now only provide basic services with a minimal workforce. A former staff member from the International Medical Corps, who left due to instability, reported that life-saving treatment programs for malnutrition have been nearly halted due to lack of funds. Termination letters have also been issued to organizations that provide crucial services such as shelter, child protection, and logistical support in Gaza. These letters, signed by new USAID Deputy Chief Peter Marocco, direct organizations to immediately cease all activities and avoid further spending, citing directives from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In addition to the funding freeze, USAID has been plagued by internal disarray and the implementation of arbitrary regulations since the new administration took office. During the first phase of the ceasefire, Israel was required to allow a minimum of 600 trucks of aid into Gaza daily, along with providing temporary housing solutions. However, due to newly imposed policies requiring additional approvals for procurements, USAID has struggled to fulfill its commitments, including the purchase of temporary homes for those in need. As the situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, the lack of funding and support from USAID raises concerns about the U.S.'s influence in the region. Dave Harden, a former USAID assistant administrator, emphasized that U.S. aid to Palestinians has historically provided leverage in discussions with both Palestinians and Israelis regarding future peace prospects. However, he warned that the current funding freeze has left the U.S. unable to engage meaningfully in the ongoing situation, putting the ceasefire at further risk. As aid groups scramble to distribute limited resources and provide for the most vulnerable populations amid this crisis, the implications of the USAID funding freeze could have lasting effects on the humanitarian landscape in Gaza and the overall stability of the region. With the ceasefire hanging in the balance, the urgency for a resolution to the funding issues has never been more critical. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.